All right, look, in this video, I don't want to just teach you how to get some clients. I want to teach you how to become a client magnet. So make sure you watch the whole video. At the end, I'm going to give you the 3 most important distinctions that will make you more successful. Experiences over expectations. I've been talking about how in our world, we're so hyper assaulted by all the marketing that people have become guarded. Now, the reason people have become guarded, especially in our online world, I mean, think about it. The online world has only been around for what, 25, 30 years, I think? 30 years tops. But in terms of being like mainstream, it's probably been roughly 20 to 25 years. But social media has really only been about the last 15 years or so, I would say. But social media marketing to where we are now with all the algorithms on all the platforms, the way they are now, we're really only talking about the last 3 to 5 years where all of that has sped up. So much of the way people market online is really just compacted, at least where we are now is compacted over the last 3 to 5 years or so. But if you open that up, and you explore why humans online are skeptical, way more skeptical than we used to be, let's say 15, 20 years ago, is because we've been taken advantage of. We've been taken advantage of. We bought stuff that showed up and it wasn't like what we thought it was going to be, whether it's a physical product or some kind of informational product or whatever. And most of us have bought loads and loads of stuff online. And forget the online experience. If you think about the times in your life that you've been taken advantage of, it's probably, if you're like most people, or at least if you're like me, it's probably when things looked really good. It seemed good. You trusted somebody for whatever reason. You trusted the product or you liked the sales page or whatever it was. It was like, yeah, we really want this. And this is a no-brainer. Let's dive in and let's get it. And let's buy it. And let's attend it, whatever it is. And then it doesn't turn out to be as good as it sounded or as good as it looked or as good as it felt or as good as somebody said it was. If this matches one of your experiences, then just let me know. So I know I'm not the only one. You know, you're not the only one, because this is a shared human experience for most of us. So the reason that most people are skeptical and guarded is because of unmet expectations and or unfilled promises. So somebody sold us a promise that wasn't fulfilled. Somebody sold us an expectation, or we created an expectation that didn't get met. So if that has been the online experience for a lot of people, or just the buying experience for a lot of people, because that happens a lot of times in person as well, where people get all emotionally drunk and they just buy whatever it is that people are going to sell. If we have that experience of unmet expectations, especially when the thing sounded really good, then you got to understand the way the human mind works. The way our mind works is we want to protect ourselves from the mistakes we made in the past. So if we bought expectations in the past and they weren't met, we felt disappointed. The mind goes, don't buy those again. Don't buy those things that sound too good to be true. So that's another reason why one of the worst things we can do is show up as a different version of what other people have already experienced. And a lot of them have already bought, because it'll probably match an expectation that wasn't met in the past. And then the brain says, don't buy that. Don't attend that. Don't listen to that person, because it looks and smells and feels just like that last unmet expectation. So if you understand the way the brain works, we want to give the brain a new experience, right? We talked about new in one of the other videos. And in this case, in this context, we want to really give our clients an experience, not an expectation. All of the doubts that people have and all the skepticism is in the realm of expectations. But when you give a human being an experience in their body, they can't deny it. Now, they might later on try to talk themselves out of it, or somebody else might try to talk themselves out of it. That happens sometimes. But if you give somebody an experience in their body, they cannot deny it. So like one of the things that we do all the time in this transformational work is help people light up where they have something lodged in their body, where they've got a conflict, where they've got some kind of a fear, where they've got some sort of limiting belief. We help them recognize where they can actually feel this energy or where they can feel this fear. And then through all the tools that we teach, we can help them dissolve that fear. Sometimes dissolve it completely, sometimes just lower it, but they can feel a difference in their body. And if they can feel a difference in their body will want more, as long as it's a positive experience, right? They can't deny what they felt, but their brain can convince them that the expectation that they're being sold might not happen, but their brain can't convince the body that what it just experienced didn't happen, at least in that moment. So if you want to give clients an experience, then you've got to shift the way that they feel. And that's the only way for most people that they'll have this leverage in their body that will trump, that will overpower, that will outweigh the mind's intellectual fears. See, most people sell from the brain to the brain. Most people sell features. Most people sell intellectually. Most people say the reason you should do this is because you want to think about this and maybe this and how about this? And that appeals to the other person's intellect. Now, the intellect is one of the entities that gets a vote in our purchasing process, but it's not the most important vote, especially not in transformational coaching. So my advice is don't get into a debate with somebody else's intellect. Give them an embodied experience that they cannot deny. So let's dissect this. Let's dissect what it actually means to give somebody an experience over an expectation. First, understand that expectations are in the head and experiences are in the body. So there's two different angles here, you as the coach and them as the client. For you as the coach, you got to be in the water. You got to be dripping wet. Your cells need to be saturated by the energy of that which you are offering other people. If you're not saturated, it's going to be really, really difficult for somebody else to go, I want what they have, because you don't actually have it or you're not displaying it. So you've got to be in the work. You want to become the essence of the work. You want the energy that you exude, the energy that resonates from you, that radiates off of you, to be the thing that somebody else wants. So in other words, you want to become the outcome that you're offering. When you are the outcome that you're offering, it'll be so much easier for people to go, listen, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you're going to have me do. I want what you have. I want what you have. For me, that experience happened in 2005 when I was in a business seminar and we had this exercise to do, and I did the exercise and I started to cry, like uncontrollably started to cry, because the exercise lit up this deep-seated limiting belief that I'll never be successful and nobody gives a damn about who I am or what I have to say, and I'll never be able to make money, and all the dreams that I ever had in my whole life, it's never coming true. And this overwhelming restriction showed up. And so I started to cry. And a coach that was co-facilitating the event took me outside. There was nowhere to sit. So he sat me down on a piano bench and he walked me through this process. In about 15 minutes, he helped me light up what was going on and dissolve it completely in that moment. And I woke up, it feels like I woke up from, a long slumber. But when I opened my eyes, I felt like I was a different person. I felt like when I got up off the piano bench, I had left about 50 pounds of shame and frustration and conflict on the piano bench. And I walked differently. I saw things differently. I went home that night and my wife asked what happened to me. And a few weeks later, I was sitting down and having lunch with a friend of mine. And as I was talking, I was just fire hosing him with all this information and all this passion and all this like excitement. And he called a timeout on me and he goes, timeout. You're smiling too much. He's like, what are you on? And how do I get it? I could have told him anything. He didn't care. He didn't care if he needed to go up to the mountains of Madagascar or whatever. He wanted what he was experiencing. And he said, whatever it is, I want that. And because of that and several other experiences that I had from other people, similarly, they were just asking me like, what happened to you? Did you cut your hair? Did you get taller? Did you lose some weight? What, like something is different. I don't know what it is, but I want it. So I ended up reaching back out to the coach, and I basically told him the same thing. I said, I don't know what you did to me. I don't care if it's legal. What was that? Because everybody wants me to do it to them. They want to experience what I am showing them. And that began my neurotransformational journey. It wasn't called neurotransformation at the time, but that began my journey where I experienced something. I went 21 straight days. I got certified in this work, 21 straight days. And when I came out of that, I just had one thought. Everyone needs to feel this. So I was ignorance on fire in that moment because I didn't care what I had to do. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just was driven by the idea that everybody needs to feel this thing that's in me right now, this thing that I feel, they need to feel this. So how can I get to them? How can I give them an experience of this? That was the transformational shift that happened for me. And most people just simply don't have that. Now, your shift doesn't have to be exactly the same thing. It doesn't have to involve a piano bench, and it doesn't necessarily have to have the same level of intensity or really any of the details that mine does, but you got to be a product of the product. You got to be in the work. You've got to study the craft of what you're wanting to do, especially if what you're wanting is transformation. If you want transformation for yourself and for other people, whatever that looks like, you got to study it from in the water. You got to be in the ocean of transformation. And information has never transformed a human. Let me repeat that. Information has never, ever transformed a human. A human has never transformed through the consumption of information, and a human has never transformed anybody else through the giving or delivering of information. Only through the implementation, only through the experiences can we as humans transform. So you've got to get in the work. You've got to get your body into the rooms if you want to be a transformational coach, where transformation is not just happening, but it's being felt, it's being looked at, it's being studied from all these different angles. You've got to get coached. You've got to coach other people. You got to watch other coaches coaching other people. There is one of the things that's missing for most people in this journey is the deep study of this work. The personal study of this work, as well as the academic study of this work, as well as seeing what's possible from other people. So you got to take certification programs, not to get a certificate. The certificate means nothing. No client has ever hired a certificate. Clients hire certainty inside the coaches. Now, the certification program can provide certainty if it's a good program and if you go through and do this kind of work, but nobody hires certification. People hire certainty. In order for you to get the certainty, you got to deep dive. I've been doing this work personally 15 plus years, 10 plus years helping coaches become better coaches and build businesses. And now really only in the last 2 or 3 years have we actually isolated how important this piece is so that we build it in and we bake it into all of our programs now as much as we possibly can. Because if people are not in the work, doing the work, studying the work, dissecting the work, then they won't be the work. They can't become the work. And that's really your goal here. Again, if you want to be a transformational coach, if you want to be an informational coach, you should have left a long time ago. I probably would have already irritated you. But if you want transformation, if you want to offer that, if you want to sell that, then you've got to be inside of transformation. That means you got to have your own coach. You got to be experiencing transformation as a client. Otherwise, there's going to be this energetic misalignment if you're trying to sell a product that you haven't purchased personally, or sell a product that you really aren't fully sold on. That's why I keep saying you got to be a product of the product. I had this thought earlier today as I was just driving into the office. I got simultaneously sad but inspired. And the thought was, every single person that wants to be valuable, that wants to be a transformational coach, absolutely can. Because you have value, because you've learned lessons as a human, and there are people out there right now searching for and willing to pay for lessons that you have. The only question is, have you found the right recipe so that those things come together? Most people have not. Most people in the coaching industry will not. And it's not the lack of value, it's the lack of alignment in the recipe. So you have a viable product in the form of the lessons that you've learned along the way, but most people are trying to teach stuff that they haven't mastered, or teach stuff that they are not driven by. They're trying to teach information that people are not really fully leveraged by or interested in or engaged in. People are just misaligned, and that's where the sadness came, because most people actually are. They have the existence of value and the existence of a viable product. It's just most of them will never feel it. They'll never find it. They'll never offer it because of misalignment. And I want that to be inspiring to you. Because if you've been struggling, it doesn't mean that you need to change. It means your recipe needs to change around you. Let me take a drink on that one. What most people are doing is trying to fit themselves into a recipe instead of being committed to create the recipe that will fit around their inherent as well as programmed and learned value. So that's you as a coach. The second angle is give them experiences as a client. On your consultation calls, my philosophy is coach, I almost swore, coach your face off. I will swear, coach your ass off. Coach these people. Give them an experience. That doesn't mean that all you do is coach. There is some strategy around consultation calls where you give them an experience and invite them to another experience. But the key piece here is you've got to give them experiential value rather than expectational value. Expectational value is based on theory. It's based on, if I give you money, you're going to give me this thing. It's essentially an IOU. Don't sell people IOUs. Sell people what they just experienced and then offer more of that. It's when people get into their intellect and people try to sell from the intellect to other people's intellect that all the theoretical stuff comes in and all the fear comes in. Give them this experience that they can't deny and just simply invite them to experience more of it. I'm telling you, in all these years, still to this day, in my opinion and in my perspective, but not just mine personally, so many coaches that we talk to, this still is the easiest way to sell coaching. It's the simplest way to sell coaching. It's the least expensive way to sell coaching. It's the best way to actually build a coaching business. And it's playing into and off of what people are tired of out there. So instead of fighting with their distrust and trying to overcome objections, give them an embodied experience they can't object to. And then just say, if you like that, I have a 3-month package. I have a 6-month package, something that they can feel. Now, if you're going to do group programs and challenges and a lot of things that are big nowadays, don't be lazy. Don't try to get people intrigued and engaged with simple, shallow information. Ask yourself, how can I give them an undeniable experience? And you can still do that online. You can still do that with some kind of a challenge, or you can still do that with some sort of a checklist or something. But it's going to take a little bit more on your end to figure out, how can I deliver this information in a way that they'll implement it and experience something. Don't sell information and expect people to just start banging down your door. We don't do that anymore for information. But if you start giving people experiences, you'd be surprised at how quickly they might start banging down the door. So when people feel this experience, now there's this draw that's coming from something much stronger than their mind that they'll want. When you get into the intellectual debate, you're getting into the realm of need. You're getting into the realm of logic. And do people really need coaching from an intellectual standpoint? Probably not. It'll be easy for them to justify and for them to convince themselves they don't need something. But when you give them an embodied experience, they will want more of that. And our embodied desire has the power to overpower rather, and outweigh our intellectual resistance. So that's what we're wanting to do. And here's the cool thing. It's actually what most people want to do. What most teachers want to do is just teach. What most people in this industry wants to do is just coach. So instead of trying to become a better salesperson, just be a better coach, be a better teacher, and then offer people experiences based on that. Now, none of this is theory. None of it is theory. This is all based on what we've seen works. It wasn't more than a couple hours ago that we got a text from one of our clients, and he's done, I think, 5 consultations, 5 coaching experiences. Some of them lasted multiple hours over multiple sessions, and some of them not as long, but he gave people an experience. I think he's coached 5 people as clients, and 3 of them have hired him. And he's just getting started. And that I'm not promising that for anybody, but it's just evidence within the last few hours of what works. And what I like even better than that is one of the people that didn't hire him, or hasn't hired him yet at least, he coached a person that used to bully him. Now, what kind of transformation must a human go through to have not just the compassion, but the desire to help somebody that caused so much pain earlier on in their lives? That's what made me almost cry. And this person said, "You've given me a better experience in 90 minutes than 2 years of therapy." That's what's possible with this work, is to give people transformational experiences. And when you do that, I promise you will enjoy the work more. You'll be lit up more. You'll be more passionate rather than trying to turn yourself into a salesperson when you don't like sales. Give people experiences that they enjoy, that you enjoy, and just offer them more. That's the easiest way to create coaching clients. And in this world, with all the things that are going on and all these expectations that I've been talking about and all these people have been taken advantage of, it's the best way to pierce their intellectual fears around buying yet another thing that they think might not work for them. Give them an experience they can't deny. So how do we put this into action? This particular step of experiences: offer hope, not hype. There's way too much hype in expectations. You buy this and you're going to get this, and let me excite you about all this stuff. But give them an experience that actually gives somebody hope that things can change. Now, how do they know that things can change? Because they just felt things change. And if things just changed in a 90-minute session or a 30-minute session, then things can continue to change. That's real embodied hope, not just shallow intellectual hope. And that's what will cause more people to continue to take action than intellectual hype. The second thing is focus on processes rather than promises. We already talked about how so many promises have gone unfulfilled. Give them the process of transformation that they can feel, that they can experience. Guide them through that. And it'll be so much easier to go, "Hey, do you want more of that?" And they'll go, "Yeah, who wouldn't want more of this?" Right? And then the third thing is, be sold over doing selling. What I mean by that is you've got to be sold yourself. If you are sold on the product, it will be so much easier for somebody to say a version to you that Jeff Warner told me all those years ago when he called a timeout on me. Whatever it is you've got coming out of your cells, I want some of that. Now, if you like this video, check out that video right there. I'm going to break down the most important principles for coaching with confidence. Now, in order to control anything, you have to understand it. So if you want to change human behavior, both for yourself and in the lives of your clients, you have to understand these foundational principles.